All right, welcome to another episode of Valued Pursuit. My name is Patrick Davitt. I'm here with my co-host Tyler Stegmann. Tyler, how are we doing tonight?
Awesome. We are very excited for another special guest.
Yeah, so tonight we have Aslan Pugh. Very excited to have Aslan on. Very appreciative to have you on. So welcome. And we're going to get a little bit into, you can see in the background, Aslan has a Rutgers jersey back there, or two jerseys. So that's how I met Aslan. He was playing football at Rutgers. I was the head nutritionist for the 2020 and 2021 season, which is where I met him. Got to know him, and we're going to dive a little bit into. He's no longer at Rutgers, graduated, and now has moved on into the working world. So we'll get a little bit into some wonderful aspects of what life was like, in general as a Rutgers student, playing football, and then a little bit about what he's doing now and how one of the reasons we really wanted to have him on, just an amazing guy, super hard worker, extremely smart, and the commonalities of the work ethic that were instilled, that I got to see because I was also there, that were instilled at Rutgers, carrying over into the specific profession that he's in today. So, Aslan, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate the compliments.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was a pleasure. I mean, there's so many players. Oh my gosh, I mean that roster would carry minimum 120 things like that. But I'm sitting there at the meals, on the practice field, flying, weighing you guys in a couple of days a week, things like that. Which thankfully you were one of those that generally didn't have to really ever correct you on your diet and didn't really have any issues with your weight. You were, what are you weighing these days? You're always around like 230.
Back at
Pretty much.
I ended up dropping a whole bunch of weight when I first came down here, just the difference in training, and I had to adjust to that. But I think I dropped down to like 215, but then that ended up getting back up to around like 229, 230 ish, kind of fluctuate around there.
Yeah. So. Oh yeah, awesome. So to give everyone a little bit of background, tell us a little bit about your time at Rutgers, and what I actually don't know what you majored in. I think you were a business
mechanical engineering, and then that was
for undergrad. And then you were
for undergrad, and then my grad was business and science.
Very cool.
But so my time at Rutgers, I was there we came in fall 2016. Left, what was it, fall 2021? Yeah. So obviously longer time than usual, got the extra year because of COVID and also redshirted in the first year. But so my start was a little weird. So out of high school, I was recruited, not really sought after. Played for charter school in Delaware, for anyone that's familiar with that team. Not a great academic school, not that great at football. At least while I was there. So never really had that many looks. And coming out, I had, I think, one walk-on offer to LIU Post. And they didn't have engineering, and I knew that's what I wanted to do. So I just was like, probably not going to go there. So came on the Rutgers campus, regular student, just the engineering student, lived in the honors college. And 2 weeks in, I already planned on it, was training for it, but there was a tryout at like 4:35 in the morning in the bubble at Rutgers. I want to say it was like September, like random Tuesday morning, September 12th, I think was the date. Came in, did combine testing, did linebacker drills, so I tried out to be a linebacker, and left feeling pretty confident. There was around 20 or so guys, not that many. And about a week or two later, got an email from one of the recruiting coordinators at the time saying I get to. So that was my way onto the team, and then from there it was just a steady uphill grind to earning basically a spot. So one of the things that was made clear to me when I first came in is, especially as a tryout walk-on, your spot isn't given, it's earned. So if I were not to meet the mark that I need to make at the end every semester to be like, yeah, we don't need you to come back, you can go. So it was pretty cut and dry. I was like, I need to earn my keep here. So very big on just working and working and working, trying to get to the spot that I want. I knew coming out of high school, it was going to be an uphill battle. Just unrecruited, got to be a walk on, and figured go big or go home. So I think the biggest school that I went to, I think it was between Maryland and Rutgers, was the school that I applied for, and chose Rutgers because I felt like their engineering program was a little bit better, and they gave me more scholarship money and everything. So it's kind of a no-brainer. But I knew it was just going to have to be a fight. So I was definitely the person that wouldn't always say first one in because not a morning person, but I was always last one out, always in the gym, trying to get stronger, trying to get faster, trying to get better because there definitely was a skill gap when I first came in. And just every day, my goal was just to close that gap a little bit more. And it wasn't up until 2019, so going into what would have been my senior year, if I was taking a normal path. And that was when I finally, cracked in these special teams, being able to start on that, and creeping into the 2 deep for defense. I forgot to say, made the team as a running back, which threw me for a loop because a whole summer, everything I did was linebacker drills, all linebacker drills. Didn't really work on ball skills, catching any of that. Just all changing direction, run, just reading offenses, all that. And then first day of practice is like, you're not going with the defense, you're going with the offense. So it threw me for. So that was another thing that was a really uphill battle. It's like I had to readjust to knowing offense again. And my high school ran wishbone, so
Sure.
it was definitely interesting having to learn to spread offense very early. But that was just kind of like the common theme throughout my career, was just adjusting, learning, adapting to the point where at least like I stood a chance. And learned throughout my career, I learned 3 different offenses and then 3 different defenses because I switched back to linebackers going into 2019. And it just was a climb from there. So from there, then I was at least regular on special teams a lot. And coming from where I had started, that was leaps and bounds better. And then into my last year, which is when I had started grad school, was able to earn a scholarship, and which gave me the opportunity to at least start grad school. And just again, coming from a trial walk on to getting a scholarship towards the end is just an uphill climb, uphill battle the whole time. But it paid off in the end, and I honestly wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Go ahead, Tyler.
I just want to dig deeper into that. We always talk about like work ethic is like one of our biggest things on here on Valued Pursuit. So where'd that come from? Is that something that you were raised with, or is it something that you probably partly, right? Or is it something that you learned as being an athlete, or is it from like the love of football, or is it even something that, you learned with pursuing engineering? And I would like to also ask what got you into that as well. We'll leave that for a second question, but do you think it's a combination of like all 3, or is it more just like your parenthood that you had and how you were raised?
That's definitely my parents. 100% my parents. A big thing with both. Well, my dad is the same way, like the exact same way. Whatever he does, it's full effort. He has 2 speeds. It's either off or on. Like it's not like it. He's all go, like all gas, no brakes whenever he does anything. So I mean, that was an example, a standard set from when I was a little kid. So I was always like that. And then my mom also was pretty big on, you don't quit anything you start. So I think I was 7 years old, 6 or 7. Her big thing was if I try a sport, because when I was little, I was interested in every sport. I tried everything I could possibly think of. I like even swam, played tennis, like just anything I could see. I was like, that's kind of interesting. My parents would get me in it. So I was playing t-ball, and I'm not the biggest baseball guy, and I wasn't a fan of it. I didn't like it. I thought it was boring. I wasn't having fun. And I think about a couple games in, like I wanted to quit, I wanted to stop. And my mom was like, "You like after this season, you don't have to come back, but you need to finish this. Like you owe it to your teammates to finish the season. Like how would that look for the rest of your team if you just stop for the bill just because you don't like it?" And then on top of that, that was the other side of that is school. Like school was 100% like I'm not doing anything else. My grades aren't right. And that was another just like you can't like they weren't going to allow me to go to school and just kind of be lazy and not at least not be good grades. Which me being I granted I was able to be a gifted kid and kind of get away with being lazy and still get good grades, but at least like they weren't gonna if anything was slipping. If I came home with like seasonal report card or something, it was there's no games, no sports. Like you're focusing on this.
Yeah.
So sorry, dogs climbing on me.
Kudos, mom and dad.
Yeah, but that's definitely where I got it from, and they were never explicitly said it, but they were big proponents of how you do things, how you do everything. So it definitely permeated throughout my life, and the older I got, more mature I got, the more I realized how much like that it will take me forward if I just stick to that. But yeah, that definitely came from them. And to the engineering, it actually came from playing with Lego a lot when I was little. So originally I wanted to be an architect. That's what I wanted to do, and what changed my mind into engineering was through he I don't know, talking about the dog. I kind of figured like I got into robotics. I think not too in depth, but when I was 9 or 10, we had this thing in my elementary school called Lego League. And what you do is like Lego has this platform in which it's very simple, very easy to teach to build basically a robot. It's a little automated guy. Has two big wheels, one small wheel in the back, and two in the front are motorized. At least that was the one that we had. And it had a very, very simple program, coding program that you essentially could do the code in blocks. It was extremely simple, extremely straightforward, great for little kids to learn. But my experience with that, and then being a little older, because I still wanted to be an architect after that, but getting a little older, kind of realizing that hey, if I like being an architect, it's a lot of art, a lot of design, a lot of math, but then you get the creative thinking, but it's kind of limited. Whereas engineering, I can still go into architecture, but it opens a realm to a whole other side of like different industries where I could get into that if I wanted to. And more I wanted to deal with either robotics, programming, or automation. That was just something that interested me. And in high school, once I started getting into coding, and especially when I started learning physics, physics was like one of those things that was just intuitive for me. Clicked, and I was like, oh, yeah, this is for me. Math, gotta have some type of combination of math, physics, and coding. See if I can figure out a way. And engineering was the way to go. So that's how I ended up getting into engineering. And then I chose mechanical because it's like the jack of all trades. So like one of the things that was explained to me is like you could do like what you major in, like which engineering denomination you pick, doesn't limit you to that. And so I wanted the one that would give me the greatest knowledge of everything, and mechanical was the way to go. So I have a little bit of a background in chemistry, a little bit of background in material science, a little background in computer science, and then also the civil, tiny little bit of aerospace, not a lot, but it gave me the basis to go into whatever I want. And so that's what essentially brought that about.
That's like the it's that famous quote, Miyamoto Musashi: "When you know the way broadly, you will see it in all things." And that's like the general concept. So for me, when I was going into my PhD, it's nutritional physiology and biochemistry at Rutgers. The idea is, and that was back, I started in 2006, but you could choose a track in either basic science or applied science. And I wanted the basic science. I wanted to know not that you don't learn similarities amongst the two, but I wanted that underlying fundamental, foundational awareness of what's going on at the cellular level. And then from there, build it into tissues, build it into organs into systems into the whole body. And then let's figure out how the body, moves, works, stuff like that. So very cool. Yeah. And then, so did you go in wanting engineering from high school?
Yes.
Yeah. Cause that's what you said. Cause you chose Rutgers based on.
Every school I went to that I visited, applied to, aside from, so every school that sent me an invitation to apply, you have to pay the application fee. I applied to, no brainer, especially for the commonality school. But all the schools I applied to were in these decent engineering schools or within a certain, there was some sort of interest there. So yeah, that was a big thing for me. It had to have engineering, and especially kind of ranked higher in engineering.
Yeah.
And then the other big thing was a big school. I didn't want to go to Zeus. We always go to what's that school called? Johns Hopkins. They're pretty good school, but it's a small school. I really love the idea of being being a small fish in a big pond. Trying to see what I can make of that. So that's how Rutgers gave 60,000 students.
Yeah, right on. Now, how many people? I mean, mechanical engineering major and full-time football athlete, and not to take away from any other sport, but when you get into Division I football, like the rigors and the time commitment is just ridiculous. And then especially once I can't speak to the older coach, but I know what it was like, once I got there, once Shiana was there. So how many people that you hung out with, how many teammates, how many people that you knew during that whole time, football and engineering, said, are you sure you want to do both of these things? Are you sure you want to handle? And how many times did you ever say that to yourself?
Oh, 100%. I mean, watching my roommates go out and say, "Hey, we're going to a party. You want to come?" And I'm like,
"Nah, I got physics.
I got differential equations homework and physics 3 to do." I mean, there's, as silly as it sounds, there was one time I was in a party with my DiffyQ notebook, and I'm like glancing over notes real quick. I mean, granted, it was at our house on campus, so. I mean, it's a little bit more convenient. I can grab my notebook. But yeah, the first 30 or so minutes, I'm still finishing studying. Like, all right, I know this is good. Because I had an exam I think it was Friday. I had an exam the next week on Monday or Tuesday. So I was trying to brush up real quick so I have a little fun. But yeah, no, it sucked in that regard. Just not being able to go out as much as my friends did, not being able to hang out. Since you gotta make time to study. You gotta make time to do homework, do practice problems, make sure you're good. It's just the amount of things that you need to learn is vast, especially certain classes. Like calculus 2 is just like the different subject material and multivariable classes. Just for the one class, the amount of different items that you need to learn is ridiculous. But yeah, no, I ask that question all the time. Probably the first person to ask me that. Oddly enough, it wasn't my parents. They were all for it.
Mm-hmm.
But first person to ask me that had to be, I think, Scott, the advisor.
Oh, Scott Walker.
Scott Walker. Yeah, Scott definitely. I'm pretty sure he was the first person to legitimately ask me, like, "Hey, are you sure?"
Yeah. Because it's unconventional, right? For how many come through those doors? And I sat with Scott. I was at grad school. I was the head nutritionist for 4 years during grad school from 2008 to 2012. And I sat at breakfast with him virtually every day, and the phone would ring and he'd pick it up and he'd say, "Excuse Central," because most people, if you're calling and we have 6 a.m. breakfast, you're calling because you're going to be late. You don't have your homework. You're not going to go to class on time and all that stuff. So I get it.
So no, he definitely was like, you don't, if you could do something different, like, it's not. But he was also very supportive too.
Mm-hmm.
He actually gave me, I believe he gave me a contact of someone who I think the year prior was a mechanical engineer and just had left. And then he was also just real. He was a big proponent of, especially getting like helping me get organized early. But he definitely asked me that. I had a few professors kind of be like, hey, I mean, is this a good idea? Because there were days where I was coming to class. With Shiano, we were a morning practice team, and when I first came in, Ash, we were a morning practice team, and that's a huge adjustment to getting up at like five or so in the morning, coming in, working out, going to practice, then going to class, and I was falling asleep in class. I was just not. I just looked out of it some days my freshman year. It was rough. So definitely got asked that a few times, and by a few teammates too. Just kind of like why would you pick this? But stuck through it, and I mean it paid off in the end.
Yeah.
How'd you balance that though? So I was just thinking that, like, so obviously you're a D1 football player, like you're probably thinking about maybe going to the NFL. That might be a goal, may not be, but like, how do you, yeah, exactly. Like, how do you keep that in line with, like, you're such a good academic student, that was your priority, but now you're like on the Rutgers football team. You're like, hey, I could go play in the NFL and make a career out of this. Like, did you have a vision? Like, you knew, like, eventually I'll probably be in engineering and I'm probably not going to play football long term. Was that something that you like went through in your head?
Kind of. It was engineering was a very, I'd say, a very high up plan B, if that makes sense. Obviously, plan A was, all out, go to the NFL, have a decent career, try to get that pension that everyone loves, and then afterwards do whatever I love, and just try to be smart with my money. But I knew that essentially, like, my original plan was to do that, somehow find a way, find my way into the NFL, and then afterwards use my degree, but for something more fun. Just have that leeway financially after if you do your money right in the NFL. Like I can at least even start something. Because obviously, if you're only in for a little bit, you can't. It's not going to last forever, but it definitely is a good jump start. Or if I did end up having a longer career, be able to just even just sit around and just do my own little creative projects on my own and see what happens. But that was definitely the original plan, and more as I got older and definitely realized like, it's a long shot, it still might happen. But then for a while, I was like, I just kind of want to own a gym or something like that. I definitely teetered back and forth with liking engineering and not liking it, just because it was, you have a idealized version of what type of job you're going to get. And when I started getting internships and started actually getting real world experience, I was like, that's kind of boring. Like I always imagine, working on like being in the lab, doing the stuff, working on robots. It's just all the glamour and cool stuff. Best example I have is like watching like Iron Man. Like that's the just the first Iron Man. The other ones kind of got a little exaggerated. But the first Iron Man, when he's in the cave and he's building the first suit, like that was, which was also funny because going back and watching it, I can recognize certain things that he's doing.
Sure,
that's
crazy.
That was always like the ideal, like not that situation, but just that process of building something. I was like, oh, this is what I want to do. And those jobs are few and far between, and especially for people who are fresh out, like that's not a job that you get immediately. Like my first internship, I spent most of my day staring at Excel spreadsheets, and even my first, I guess, real job when I was a supply chain analyst, which isn't engineering, but I used some of my background in it because there's a lot of chemicals. So I had to build spec sheets, and there were a lot of chemicals in the spec sheets. And my the background with chemistry, I was able to it helped a lot. So the guy who actually hired me to was also a former mechanical engineer at Rutgers, and he had said like my engineering background would help me, and it definitely did. But even then, I spent a lot of time looking at Google Sheets and making spreadsheets and just a lot of documents, and I was like, I don't know if this is what I want to do. It means kind of boring. Not to say that there were some fun parts, but if there were moments where I'm like, I don't, sitting in front of a desk, like this is, it's not fun. So yeah, engineering, but it was always like a really high up plan B. Like this is definitely want to play football first, but I definitely want to get into this, and it just the dream and how I went about it transformed. But to say how I structured it and how I went about it, I kind of had a process. So football was, they always say like, school number one, football number two. And you see coaches say that or do that with their fingers. But football came first with everything. I had the majority of my time was dedicated to football, to learning plays, to lifting, getting right for that. But then after that, and I guess it's kind of like a mix between sleep and schoolwork in terms of free time. And obviously, my big recreation was playing video games, so I balanced that there too. I did play a lot, probably a lot more than I should have. But the big thing was just creating a process. So I kind of, I guess, more or less what you call an algorithm, just kind of like a plan to attack schoolwork. So essentially, what I did was like I knew I would not have enough time to study everything and know everything. So I had to plan exams in advance for like, all right, what subject am I going to roll the dice on? Basically, like if I get it wrong, I get it wrong. And I had to just kind of strategically plan out, all right, I'm going to study this, I'm going to study this, I'll work on this. But when it comes to this, if it's on the exam, who knows? Like I may not be able to get it. And then I just would build my grades with a cushion so that if I have to take that hit on the exam, I'll be fine. And I cut it close a lot, and it took until my sophomore year to really get this process down, like late in my sophomore year, but it paid out in the end. So essentially, like how it worked was homework, like easy assignments, everything, got to do every single one. Can't miss out on that. Easy grade. I mean, it's a freebie. It's a gimme. And then projects, I've got to do well in projects because again, you get too much time to work on it to miss out on anything. So like everything has to be thorough and just try to stay ahead on that. When I had papers, I wasn't the best writer coming into college, but actually I had a very good professor. Her name was Regina Mazziello, great professor. Basically sat me down and was like, hey, like you have some good writing or you have the ability to write well. You just jumble up all your stuff. And she broke down how I should write it. And I used that process for the rest of college. Got pretty good on papers, but like again, it's just like projects. Stay ahead of it, stay on top of it, stay organized, but get those right. And then for studying for exams, it was like how I described. It's like pick the subjects that you think are going to be most prevalent on it, study that the most, and then if there's anything that's too much that you're not going to be able to get it down, just try to get enough of everything else that I take that hit, I still get like an 80, or I'll get like a 70, or just be above the curve, something like that, to just basically just survive until finals when you get that big amount of time to study and just kill finals every time. And that's the process that I use. Just essentially every other assignment, gotta get that done, especially homework, especially the freebie, extra credit, gotta get it. That even comes up, gotta do it. And then just strategically planning out exams and just calculating, all right, I'm going to take a loss on this, but then I'll get everything else right or try to. And that was kind of how I attacked school, knowing that I'll never be able to dedicate majority of my time to it. And especially when you're on a curve and competing against other students, knowing that I'm competing against other kids, especially really smart kids that they have. I mean, I know some people work, other people have other curriculums. There was other engineers who played other sports, but essentially, like they had more time. They were going to have more time. They were going to have that advantage academically. So I was like, I got to be able to strategize how to at least be able to be competitive and then end up with decent grades in the end. And then the goal always was to just try to be over a 3.0, try to be over a 3.0. I ended up graduating with, I think, a 3.04. So I got it close, but I got over a 3. So, yeah, that's how I kind of structured that, went about it. Try to stay really organized. Yeah, it was a process, but it ended up working out.
So you engineered your schedule, your studying habits, and it's a really good, as someone who's a professor, to figure out a way to engineer. Like, I mean, you have a syllabus and it tells you what are the different weighted grades and things like that. Mm-hmm. And then you have a general itinerary of here's the general concepts in your textbooks and all these different things. So man, kudos to you. That is, I mean, in general, only an engineer would like design their life in such a structured way. But it gets to a lot of the things that Tyler and I talk about in general between him and I, and a lot of the different guests we'll have on and things like that of, it's like that Benjamin Franklin, failing to prepare is like preparing to fail. So you were looking to toe the line as much as possible, like pursuing that, you didn't want to give up one for the other, nor the other for the one. So
not at all.
Yeah. And then, so, I mean, you were always a beast in the weight room. And I mean, did well, I everything that I ever knew about you was I never had any issues from a nutritional standpoint, body weight, eating, everything was like, you're like that ideal. It's basically, the player that you basically never have to correct them on anything. I could just blink and up his weight's probably 230, stuff like that. So strong as an ox, legs like tree trunks. I mean, pound for pound, you had to be one of the at least.
I think I was top 5 pound for pound.
I think Tufo could have given you a run for. I mean, guys, strong.
Tufo
100. I don't know. I don't want to. I had 140 pounds, 150 pounds, but
no, Tufo definitely has me on that.
Mention 3 something. It's just nuts. But
what are the numbers? What are numbers?
There you go. Where are your best?
Yeah.
Tyler's a gym rat, so he wants to know these.
My best squat. I did 1 rep max with Butler. I think I forget what I got. It wasn't a great day for me. But the best squat I had ever did was 5 plates, and then I had 20-pound chains on each side. So at the top it was 535. At the bottom it was probably like a little over 500, and I did that for 4 reps.
Yeah.
That was my. Go ahead.
I was going to say, to set the stage for everyone listening, because as someone who teaches this field, that's a huge misconception that I think a lot of people have, where it was very rare at Rutgers, at least. I mean, I was in a variety of different strength places, and it was very rare for you to do 1RMs. A lot of times it's let's do 3s, let's do 4s, let's do 5s and bang it out and things like that, because you're playing in a football game. I get it. But like you get the 1RM and the appeal of how much weight can you lift, but you're playing in a long football game. You're never doing one rep and things like that. So sorry to cut you off, but that's something I wanted to. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're good. No, I mean 100%. Like you say you can squat 600 pounds. If you do it once, like where's the application on the field? You need to be able to do it over and over and over again. Do it. Rest 30 seconds, come back, do it again. Like so that was it was rare. It was rare to do 1 rep maxes. We did a little bit with the old staff too, but it wasn't much. But yeah, that was my best ever squat. My best bench was 335. And then my best power clean was 329.
Nice.
And then the best jerk I did, which it wasn't without power clean, it was just split jerk, was 325. I think. I'm trying to think any other.
Did you guys snatch it all or no? No snatching, right?
Yeah, it was I just snatched over 200 pounds like a couple months ago. We did it as a change up, but we never Butler was just a change up for explosive movement you could do, but move it fast. There's never go heavy on it. I think the heaviest I went there was I think like 190. I want to say 197 because it was a 25 kilo and a 10 kilo. I think it's 197 pounds altogether. But
and I wonder if the justification for that, at least from a football standpoint, would be that like radically wide grip. You are coached over and over. You will never have a grip wide in football, like for any position. I mean, there's a wide receiver or someone, if you're a lineman but the idea is everything is you're locked in when you are engaged with another individual, you are locking in, like between the shoulders. So from a clean hang power, whatever, it just makes a lot of sense. And I mean, they're both explosive, like ollie lifts. So, go ahead.
I was gonna say, even with bench, like it's funny. The bench he taught us, like the indentation of your thumb on the knurling. When I do it, when I came down to the track house and I was doing it, they're all like, "Why do you use narrow grip on regular bench? This is always how I did it." Like my hands are always inside, like right here when I bench. I'm just used to it. So I still haven't inched them out. It actually applies because I'm a jackman. When you're jacking the car, your hands are close together inside on the jack like this. I still do everything narrow grip because it's similar.
Yeah, so let's transition to that. So the first time I heard about it, I think it was the first time I heard you were going to go down, and work, at a NASCAR facility. I think it was you trying my Oculus for the first time. I turned you on to the Oculus Quest. I know you're a huge gamer and things like that. And I was like, you got to try this out. So I brought it in and a bunch of people were trying it. And then I think it was that day you had indicated like you got a gig down in Charlotte. So talk to us about that. Tell us what you're doing now and how'd you get hooked up there?
Coach Butler, actually. So I remember it was the summer before the 2021 season, so summer 2021. I was just in the weight room. I was always hanging out in there, just just talking to Tufo and I think Coach Taylor. I don't know if Coach Mason's in there at the time. He might have been in the room there, but I was talking to strength coaches. And Coach Dodd was in there, yeah, just messing around. And we were just talking about for plans afterwards, and I was like, I kind of want to. I was getting into race. I forgot to say this. One of the big things for engineering that I was like always interested with Formula One. I had seen, I forget where they make the engineers doing Formula One make a ton of money, travel the world, all this stuff. Sounds great. Looks like a lot of fun. Which oddly enough, the engineers that do Formula One also pit. So I would have ended up in that. If I was able to find that route, I would have ended up in that. But talking about that, and then I just kind of, wrote it off, saying it's really hard to get into it. Kind of like a who you know type deal, and going fresh out of college without any automotive experience would be really hard to get into racing. Especially since I had basically no experience in terms of cars. So it was all automation robots, all that coding and all that. So it would have been hard. But Tufo had said, hey, Coach Butler coached the guy who's in NASCAR now. And he's like, you should talk to him, see if he can put in a word for you. So I was like, okay, cool. So about a couple of days later, I went over to Coach Butler's office. I was like, hey, Tufo said, you know a guy in NASCAR. I was like, I kind of wanted to get into engineering F1, but I mean, getting into NASCAR, I mean, still racing, still travel, still all that stuff is fun. He's like, He's like, yeah. So he was the coach of my head coach now, whose name is Sean P. He played hockey at Dartmouth, and Coach Butler was a strength coach when he was there. But what Coach Butler said was like, he's like, in terms of, because he was talking about, I was talking about engineering, but he brought up pitting. So, and he broke down like pitting is similar to football. You still work out, still team environment, still compete on Sundays or Saturdays. You still compete on the weekends, travel and everything. And that it's very similar. And he was saying like it'd be something I probably like felt interested in. He put in a word for me. And I mean, once he said it was similar to football and still get to run around, and also it's a foot in the door to get into engineering, that's a no brainer. Especially being I think it was 23. So like young, take a risk, try something new. If I don't like it, I can always fall back on it's engineering, go anywhere. So. And I was working a supply chain. That was the supply chain. I was working that in 2021, the whole from the summer on to the end of the year. So actually during the season, I was still working. And I could fall back. I had some connections there that I could fall back on too if it didn't work out. So I just said, all right, might as well take this risk. Mm-hmm. So he called my coach, and then I think about a couple of days later, I get a phone call from him, from the coach. And he was like, "Oh, Coach Butler said all these good things about you. Like you said, all this stuff. Same thing you said about your hard work in the weight room. Blah blah blah. Like whenever you're ready, come down. Like just simple as that." And then so I came down for a visit at the end of the summer training. I drove. I think my mom came with me because she was helping them for apartments. And I think this is a thing too. We drove down to North Carolina. Early in the morning, like 6 a.m., showed up to where they worked out, did a workout with them. And I threw up. And it was rough. I was like, I'm thinking,
because of the workout.
Yeah, because of the workout. I'm thinking I'm coming in, I'm like
crushing it.
Football training. I'm like,
what was the workout? What was the workout? Huh? Give us a brief overview of the workout.
So they do CrossFit. Yeah. And it's so different from the training that I'm used to. So I'm thinking, we're gonna do like cleans, explosive stuff. I'm gonna kill everybody. Like I'm fresh out of football. Like this is, not even fresh out. I'm still in it. Like I'm in great shape. Just finished getting ready for summer camp. Like I'm in it. Nah. So the workout was, I think it was it 40 or 20? I want to say it was a total of, it was between pull-ups and something else. You had to hit 40 of them. I forget the other exercise that you had to do, but you had to hit a total of 40. Then it was a 400-meter run. You come back, you do 20 wall balls, which squat. There's like a squat to press with a medicine ball up to a target, and on the press, like you're throwing it up to a target. 20 of those, 400-meter run. Come back, 20 more of those, another 400-meter run. Then you do the pull-ups again, and then a 400-meter run. Mm-hmm. Oh, I was gassed. It was rough. I was like, came back after the last run. And I finished, I want to say like third or fourth in the group. Which, I mean, now knowing it's not bad at all, especially for like me my first time doing this type of training, throwing up all over the place. I was this big garage bay door at the gym they worked out. I was outside throwing up. Funny enough, the head coach of track, Sean, gets on FaceTime and with Butler just shows me throwing up. And Butler's like, "What did you do to him?
Look at your boy."
He's got summer camp and like football practice in a week, and you got him thrown up out here. But funny enough, because I threw up, what he had told me was like I came down, I sold out for the workout, was all in on a workout that I didn't even have to go to. He was like, that was all he needed to see. We'll take you. Whenever you're done with football, join the team. Like you're in.
Sick. As it for a job.
for a job. Essentially,
not an internship.
My job. Yeah,
Right.
no,
That's
for
awesome.
a job. So, but yeah, it was awesome. So throwing up in a workout ended up getting me getting me a job, but it was a tough workout, and I was thinking I'm about like I'm about to kill it, and I'm kind of like that. I only know one speed, so if I'm getting in the workout, I'm going all out every time, and it got me. But yeah, that's how I got into it.
And that's you know what? That's a testament in life, like in general. I constantly tell, especially like from students, anyone that I work with, and you never know when you're like, I mean, literally when we're at Rutgers, you're being tested every minute of every day. Everything you do is a test. So it's like in life, you never know. I just watched a random video this morning, and the one guy was like, you never know who's watching. You get like music artists, you get people doing like magic, you get people playing, you never know who's watching. And then all of a sudden it's like someone was watching who, has the ability of offering you what you want. So why not go all out in all that you do? That's like my general mindset. But
how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Yeah, like you said before.
Yeah, 100%. What's funny enough, so later in the last year, playing off of that, just you don't know who's watching. Well, one, there were multiple times. So I wore a camera in my helmet, just to be able to watch film back of like from my point of view and kind of see like what am I turning my head at? What am I looking at? What can I do to recognize the things? But you catch certain things in it. And one of the it's a few things that are funny to me. So there's one screenshot like early on in the year that I had. I was transitioning from the right side of the car to the left side of the car. So I was running around the car, and I noticed in the background, one of the coaches for Trackhouse was standing in the background with his phone, like up in the air, like he was recording the pit stop. Like, I went back and watched it. I saw, I was like, is that it? I went back and paused and looked, and it was like, stand back there with a phone, like recording the whole stop. Just watching how, like, just checking to see how we're doing.
And this is during competition, or this is training?
This is during a race. This is during a race. Like, it wasn't a race that he was in. So he was just seeing how, like, it was me and two other people who were in the developmental program. He was just checking out how we were doing that race. But later in the year, when I was, because first coming in, you don't usually get a contract immediately. That's something you still have to earn that. So I was able to get hours and get paid through other things, but in terms of like getting paid to just be there to pit cars, like you still have to fight your way up and earn that. Which, I mean, essentially, like the way the Trackhouse does it is everyone's a walk on official when you walk in.
Sure,
like, you got to earn it. Which I think is kind of the right way to go, because we get a lot of good guys there and a lot of guys who are really about it, who really work hard. Like, I'm for the most part on the team surrounded by a bunch of me's when it comes to working out. Like, I'm not the crazy one anymore.
Right.
I'm normal. So, but towards the end of the year, actually not too long after I had gotten a contract with Trackhouse, I was at a race, or I guess my last few series of races, they were pretty good. And a coach for another team had seen me pit, and one of the guys who was currently on his team, who I knew, was asking him about me, saying like, am I signed anywhere to have a contract? Because they were going to offer me a contract to come there. So it's again one of those things that you don't know who's watching. So it's like so if I didn't plan on leaving my team. I love Trackhouse. It's a great place. I'm not, but I mean, you don't like it. It always pays to have options. And so that was another thing where I was like, if say it was downtrodden, wasn't a good situation, would have been able to jump somewhere else. So it's always again, just putting your best foot forward with everything you do.
Can you take us through whatever you can? Like, cause I love cars, like Pat said, it's my, it's like my passion. Just take us through like your job right now, like whatever you can talk about. Like, the training that's required, and also like a race, like what do you guys do? If someone like that doesn't know anything about NASCAR, kind of like a minute overview, like synapse of like what you do in like a pit stop.
Yeah. Like you were just saying, pit, pit, like up to pit and stuff like that. Like, walk us through. That's awesome.
Okay. So for a pit stop, so the way it's done now, kind of two types because Cup is different from trucks and Xfinity. So there's three types of cars. They're trucks, which is legitimately like it looks like a truck, like it's the three manufacturers are Chevy, Ford, and Toyota. So it's kind of like they don't really look like like a Toyota with a Tundra or like a Chevy Silverado, but they're kind of like supposed to look like it. But so you have trucks, you have Xfinity, which the Xfinity cars are they're legit cars. They Mustang, Camaro, and I think a Toyota Supra are the bodies that they use. And then you have Cup cars, which is the highest level, which again is Chevy Mustang, and I think the Camry PRD. And the style fits out a little bit different. So trucks and Xfinity cars, and start Xfinity because that's the sponsor, and that's just the way to draw the line between Cup, and you can't just call them both cars. But the truck and Xfinity are 5 lugs. So it used to be all cars had 5 lugs.
Mm-hmm.
So the changers, like they have their gun, they're hitting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 off. But with Cup, they switched to 1 lug actually as I came in. So it's just one lug nut, kind of like F1, where it's just plug. You get the 1 lug nut, you tire, and throw another tire.
Like a center lock, right? Is that the way they call it? Center lock?
Yeah, center lock lug. Yeah. But the pit stop. So how it goes is you have 5 guys. You have 2 changers, a front changer, a rear changer. You have a jackman, you have a carrier, and you have a gasman. Gasman, self-explanatory, fuels the car. All he does. Changers, front and rear changers, one changes the rear tires, one changes the front tires. Jackman, you have a jack. Job is to get the car up on both sides, and then you also hang on the right side. You hang the front tire. On the left side, you hang the rear tire. I'll explain why you do that in a second. And then the tire carrier carries out the tires. Carries out the both right side tires. So the way the choreography goes, and it kind of sucks without having a diagram, but from left to right facing pit road, you have your front changer, then a tire carrier, in the center you have the jackman, then you have your gasman, and at the end you have the rear tire changer. And the car comes in most tracks from your right going towards the left. Some tracks it's reverse, and you change the choreography a little bit for that. But everything in the pit stop, basically down to like every little movement you do is planned beforehand. A lot of repetitive motion. I'd say similar to running a 5-10-5. Every step you run in a 5-10-5 is planned. There's no. I mean, if you mess up, there's an adjustment, which is like the pit stop. But essentially, if a perfect 5-10-5, you're taking the same step at the same time in the same place. Your body movements, your leans, everything is all the same every single time you run it. It's all choreographed. There's no. And if you make a mistake or you do something a little different, you adjust off of that. But everything's planned. So the car comes in. As it's coming in, you have your stall, and then you have stalls around you for other cars. So one stall away, when he crosses that line, you can jump out across the car. You always start jumping out across the car, do the right side, go over to the left. Unless it's reverse, you do the left, go to the right. But you just focus on the regular. So as a jackman, my job, again, first and foremost, pit stop doesn't go without the jackman. The pit stop goes as I go. So starts with getting the car. Got to get the car in the air if that's possible. Makes it a lot easier. Makes it a lot faster. So you're anticipating and reading the car. So essentially, like you, and I could probably support if I could send a video. I could send a video too if you could attach it if you want that.
Sure.
But you so what's first called is there's a jack post on the car. Supposed to just designed strictly for the jack to get it up. initially it's called a peg, and then it's like a stroke coming down on the handle. But that gets the car up. And the way, hard to describe without me like diagramming things, but it's easier to come off the jack and step towards your right than it is to go to the left. So the carrier will come out, set my tire to the right of me. So when I come off the handle, I can grab that tire and put it on the car. By the time I get the tire, the front changer has that tire out. And
you're putting it on the front.
I'm putting on the front of the car. So the front. So what happens is like as I'm getting the car up, they're either hitting lugs or getting the one lug off and pulling that tire. So when I grab my tire, and I'm like, as soon as I grab it, it's going on. 5 lugs is a little bit of a pause because those are longer. 1 lug, it's as soon as you come off, you grab, go, like it's on. And then the process from there is they either hit all the lugs they have to hit or just tighten the one back on. I grab the jack, loosen it, pull it from under the car, and it's a dead sprint to the other side. For the front changers, not that much of a sprint. For the Jackman carrier on cup, it's a sprint. Like you're running as fast as you can to that other side and getting that car up as fast as you can. So the tire carrier in 5 lugs has to take both tires back to the wall. So you grab the right rear that came off, you usually pick it up and either put it on its outside arm, so his right arm, and then come up and roll the right front. Or we have a guy who he rolls all the tires, so he gets a turn, he just rolls it, like just pushes it like you're playing around with a ball, like a little kid playing around with a ball. He's extremely fast at doing it, really good at it. Like it looks really smooth. So he'll do that. So you can also do that too. But he has to clean up the tires, come around to the left side, and again, I'm stepping to my right. So because I'm stepping to my right on the left side jack post, to my right is the left rear. So I grab the left rear, hang that. The carrier's coming around, grabbing the tire, and then the left front. And as soon as it's tightened, I'm dropping it, car's going. And the gas man during the stop is fueling. It can be a 1 can or 2 can. So 1 can on the transition, unplugs, steps back, lets the rear changer come through, comes back, plugs in. If it's 2 cans, he's unplugging, throwing the can to the wall, grabbing a second can from somebody and plugging in. And even if it's not empty, we do that because when the can's full, which is about 100 pounds, your gas minimum is huge.
Strong dude.
They
you're saying.
they're usually pretty strong. Usually pretty big guys. But when it's full, it flows faster because you have that pressure from all the fuel built up, and then as it's emptying, like it's slowly flowing slower. So if you want to get more fuel in the car, and you need to, like depending on the course that you're at, they grab instead of trying to come back with the same can, they throw that can half full, grab another can, come in, and it will flow faster to stop. So especially for cup, that matters for cup because your pit stops are ideally the best. I mean, the best stops at cup are less than 9 seconds. So 8.6, 8.7 seconds. Those are your fastest. Those are usually anomalies. Like they're few and far between. But solid stops, you're like mid 9 seconds, below 10 seconds. Like that's a decent. Like that's a good stop. And I mean, you want every advantage you can get, so you can get more fuel in the car, especially if you're at like a super speedway where it's a fuel mileage. It's all about how much fuel you'll have, or if you're at a road course where it's all about how much fuel you're running. Like for Project 91, it's really, really big, like important to get as much fuel as you can. And the fact that those races, you'll see people like they'll finish the pit stop and they'll wait on fuel because they need to get more in there.
Right, a 1.5 second extra couple gallons is going to now give you another lap or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be the difference between finishing the race and running out of fuel, or say you expect there to be overtimes. NASCAR is unlimited overtimes, and you don't want to have to pit during overtime. That essentially takes you out the running. Because overtime is a 2 lap shootout. You got 2 laps. So you got to make whatever move you can. You got to come pit. You're essentially going to start from the back, which is it sucks. It depends on the track. Some cases you can do that.
Here's a random question. Will they ever modulate their speed because they're pressed for gas? Or will that should be a rare circumstance, I would assume.
Rare, but it happens.
Sure.
The biggest thing you'll see is if let's say they're in a field, like it's going to be a long green flag run, and fuel's a concern. They won't shift. So shifting takes more fuel, so they'll stay at like fifth gear the whole time. Try to stay at a high gear and not shift, which affects the handling. You're not going to be able to turn as well, but you'll be able to make it longer. That was actually a big thing in the championship last year. There was a long green flag run. A lot of guys were running low on fuel. So they were not shifting going into turns, but it was affecting their performance. Their cars were slowing down because you can't corner as well in the high gear. But they were just they were trying to conserve fuel, because if they were shifting the whole time, then they would run out of fuel. And that's a case by case thing. But that happens often enough that it's a no thing that you just don't shift things, or you shift as little as possible.
Do they have like onboard systems where they can override horsepower too and dumb it down a little bit tuning wise? If they
no. I thought you were gonna say onboard, just the track stuff. They have a whole lot of sensors and different things, so everything gets broadcast to the pit box, and the crew can see what's going on, what's going on with the car, but yeah, in terms of on board changing things, it's not like F1. I know they have a whole system where they can adjust the car, do everything. Any adjustments you're doing on the car, the pit crew does.
Yeah, gotcha.
So if you want to, there's like areas on the back where you stick like a custom wrench in there and turn it, change the ride height of the car, and change how it handles and everything, which is always kind of fun. And then for 5 lug, there's a bunch of stuff. So you've got a grill tape to cover up the grill so the engine can get a little bit hotter, or you take it off so it can cool, get more air in. These things called packers, which you stick into is it the shock? I know you take time to put it into, I'm not doing the justice, but it would change I think it's in the shock. And no, spring rubber is going to the rear shocks, but the front, it changes the right height of the car too. It's like a little thing you insert in or take out, also change the right height. Spring rubber is going to rear, stiffen the shocks, or loosen the shock. You put it in and stiffen it, take it out to loosen it. There's so many different things, and there's also shock adjustments where you go into the car, put rounds in the shock to tighten it up or loosen it up. Like there's a whole bunch of things, and all that stuff that has to be done manually in the race. There's no automated system to do it.
So that's more like that, old school. Sorry to interrupt, but like the old school style of it too, right? Versus the Formula One, like you were saying, kind of how it started.
It makes it more fun. Makes it so a team that can adjust really well, has an advantage.
Yep.
So you can, you definitely, let's say you go into a race and your setup isn't great, but if you learn how to adjust and get the car right in the middle of the race, which there's only so much you can do, but if you can get those things and do it in a reasonable amount of time, the end of the race, you still have a shot to hit it. You still have a shot to go for, pretty good spot and even win. Usually when you're doing those adjustments, you're not running very well. Ideally, you wouldn't want to have to do that. That slows your stop times down tremendously.
Now, how much are you? So there's like, when we say training, I mean, there's multiple aspects of training. So you'll have like your strength conditioning component. Is that daily? Are you doing that like pretty much every day?
Depends. So we have our team specifically has two training groups. Um, there's a group that's more traditional, like how we train in college.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a group that's more CrossFit.
Sure.
The CrossFit group, at the bare minimum, you're working out twice a week. They're they're horrible workouts. They are
Mm-hmm.
hard. Because I'm on the cross, I did the other side first, and then the CrossFit side. Just try it out each year, see which one I prefer. But the cross, they're brutal every time. They're brutal. But yeah, those are twice a week, and then he gives out a workout on Wednesday that you can do technically 3 times a week. But with the CrossFit side, you kind of get some more leeway in when you work out. The other side's 4 times a week, so Monday through Thursday you're working out. But for the most part, I mean, that's the minimum. A lot of people, well, I wouldn't say that. For the traditional side, those 4 lifts, they're pretty good in terms of balancing. But for the CrossFit side, like, I mean, it's 2 to 3 workouts. And I mean, a lot of it's more conditioning related, but like you want to do more. So a lot of the guys like end up working out 5, 6 times a week. Like I personally, so I'll do like a light lift on Monday, because we travel back Sunday night. Sometimes get back early Monday morning, but I'll do how I do is I do a light lift on Monday. I do the workout, the team workout on Tuesday. Wednesday I'll either run or lift, and then Thursday team workout again. Whichever day I travel, Friday or Saturday, I don't do anything. So if I'm traveling Saturday, I lift Friday. Don't lift Saturday. If I travel Friday, don't lift Friday. Lift Saturday. And then Sunday morning before the cup race, I would lift. Whether I for the most part travel as a backup, and then when I have a race, still climbing that ladder.
Sure.
But much further where I was last year. Yeah. But yeah, every Sunday I'm lifting just like a little like beach workout bodybuilder, get an arm pump before same stuff I would do before games a little bit. But yeah, no. So we're training like I'd say 5 to 6 times a week. I really only have like one day where I dedicate a rest day, and then if I feel like I need it on Monday, I won't lift. Or if I feel like I need an extra day on Friday or Saturday, I won't lift. But for the most part, it's 5 to 6 times a week. So I guess in totality for everybody, 4 to 6.
And then how much are you? I mean, will you just spend hours jacking up the car, practicing your grip, picking it up, counting your steps? Yeah, I mean, to walk us through. Is it raining? Here's my naivete in NASCAR. Like, is there a lot of rain ever? I know the places that you go might not have as much. Because I was going to say, how would that affect? Like, your steps are now going to be calculated to a different degree, or maybe you wear different shoes, like you change the tires and they grip better. I'm sure there's a whole world of the types of shoes, the rubber that they have, all that stuff.
Shoes in terms of pitting, no. Actually, shoes are very limited, which sucks. But definitely, stuff changes depending on what's going on. So, like I said, some tracks are reverse stops, so you're doing that differently, and that's a whole different preparation way. For the most part, it's the same thing, just do it reverse. So you do the left side first. I hang the left rear, run around to the right front. But in terms of like what you said, rain. So rain is rare in terms of competing in the rain. You're not going to do that often. Before just road courses, you would compete in the rain. You could compete in the rain. Funny enough, when I first did Project 91 last year, when it first ran, it rained a ton in Watkins Glen early on. Like early in the race. So, yeah. So what's funny is we had to put rain tires. Because, they're slick tires, no groove, whatever, maximize grip, more speed. With rain, you're going to slide into a wall. Like you're not going to have any grip. You have grooves, so the so the liquid can run
Yeah,
through.
channels.
But yeah, you have rain tires. So, and what changes for a pit stop in terms of the rain? So one, I mean, you want to keep your jack out of the rain. That's not good because there's oil to go to the pump. You don't want to get water in there. But essentially, like we're changing the pit stop is just get it done.
Sure.
It doesn't. Like speed gets thrown out. It's all about execution. Because there are going to be people falling. There's going to be people making mistakes because it's in the rain. So it's all about just being clean and getting it done. So then you focus less on speed and focus more on just getting it right.
Yeah.
And so not my first cup pit stop, but my first one that mattered. Because I had done a race prior to Project 91, but that one we were running horribly. It was a rough day. It was interesting, but with that one, that was the first one. Was like we're competitive, we're coming through. Like this is legit. Was in the ring, and the biggest thing. One of my coaches was actually there, so he was giving me. He was like, do not, whatever you do not go out there and try to run a super fast out. He's like, doesn't matter how long it takes. Trust me, just be clean. You will be fine. And that's what we did. And then after the pit stop cycle, actually I think we did one more stop, but after it cycled through, we ended up in 10th. So like we just being clean just benefited the whole situation. But yeah, so you'll fit in the rain every now and then. I think it was a year before I came in, or 2 years before I came in. I want to say the year before I came in, 2021. At Circuit of the Americas, actually where 91 just ran, it was a downpour for days, like 2 or 3 days. They were telling us. I think it was downpour on Sunday, downpour on Monday. Then they ended up running the race on Tuesday, and it was still raining really hard. They said it was just soaked, like it was terrible. It was just like get it done. Nobody couldn't worry about speed. Like it was just survive the day. So in terms of rain, like it's more about just executing, getting it done. In terms of strategy, all that really changes is just putting rain tires on the car. And then if it clears up, then you need to come down pit road and take the rain tires off and put real tires, to put slicks on. Which we had to do a walking play too, which was actually kind of fun. It was fun for me to do the pit stop, but one more than we planned for doing that day. But it's cool. But yeah, that's the big thing. Funny enough, the biggest condition that you deal with that'll change things is one, where you are on pit road, and two, where the track is. So tracks in Vegas, Phoenix, Fontana a little bit too, but Fontana's not as bad. But Vegas and Phoenix are the ones in deserts. I'd say Texas too a little. I don't know if Texas is as bad, but it's a lot of sand. A lot of sand will kill the track, and it makes it slick. Like if it's a bad windy day, like you have a lot of sand in the stall. And I mean, we have tools to clean out the stall and make sure that we have an adhesive spray, VHT, to spray in the stall to make it more so it's grippier. One for the car, so the car gets more grip. It's more for the driver to stop and take off, make it easier. But also for us, so we're not slipping as much. Another thing, different tracks will provide different little hazards to deal with. So short tracks, you're on your brakes a lot. You're on the straightaways, you're zipping ahead, and you get into the corners, the tight corners, you're gonna be hard on the brakes. Brakes gonna get hot. So next to the brakes is the tire. It's gonna get hot. So one of the big things, you'll have to deal with brake fires sometimes. So like a change will be hitting tires and hitting lugs, and right behind the tire is a fire, like just right there. I actually had one, so it was late in the year.
Dang.
It was the stupidest thing ever. This show my lack of experience. My front changer's hitting lugs. A friend of mine named John McGee. He's a changer at RFK. We were on an Xfinity car together. Hitting lugs off, pulls a tire, just a brake fire, just in there. I mean, there's nothing you can do. You just continue to stop, hang the tire, go on. for some reason, my knee-jerk reaction was to blow at the fire real quick and then hang the tire. And so you see, like, on his camera, you see me, like, dip in, blow at it, and hang a tire, and then he goes back and does it. And it was just stupid, but it was just a knee-jerk reaction. But you get stuff like that. Another thing is you're on the brakes a lot, get a lot of dust, especially get a lot of rubber coming off the tires, get a lot of brake dust. And you don't see, like, especially with 5 lugs, the lugs would be black. They were like coated and painted yellow or painted pink so you can see it easy. There was another one of my friends, like one of my buddies on this video, you can see one where he throws his gun, hits a lug, and it's just a black you can't see the lugs. It's just like memorize the pattern and hit and see what you can do. Which they're great. Changers are great at that. Like you look at the pattern, they'll look at the pattern and close their eyes, hit the pattern. Like, stuff like that. It's like shooting a free throw.
Sure.
A lot of stuff with hitting is like shooting, hanging a tire, hitting like so shooting a free throw. It's like something you practice over and over and over again before you do with your eyes.
Those fires they go away once the car starts moving, or
yeah, I mean they don't play that much of a like they don't affect it. I mean it's not like it's egregious fire. It's small. I mean, I'd assume yes.
How is the jack that you use different from like a normal jack? Because I was watching the video, I sent it to Patrick, and it was I don't know who it was that was doing it, but it was someone who was professional, like level that you are doing it, and he did it like 8 seconds and 20 milliseconds, and then had like a normal pedestrian do it, and the guy like put his whole body weight into it, and could barely even get it down. So it's one pump, right?
Mm-hmm. Ideally. You have situations that make it too, or they got road courses where the chains are long. But they're designed to get the car fast. They're designed to get it up in one stroke. So what it is they're heavy. Like you take a regular shop jack, you're going like this on the jack, the whole like raising it up, and it grows up like inches up.
Yeah.
This one, it's as soon as you're bringing that handle down, that plate's coming up.
Yeah.
And so what you do is you it's all technique, all leverage, all physics, trying to get your body behind the handle, get your weight behind the handle, rather than trying to like you use your body, but it's like where you place your body. So and one of the examples that was given to me is because I'm on the smaller side for Jackson. But it's all a technique thing. It's not really a strength thing. I was like when I first came in, I was trying to muscle it up every time, and it wasn't working on the left side. Left side's a lot heavier than the right side. One, you've got the driver on that side, but two, the way the cars are like slant like this. So the left side, the post is lower, but the left side's also heavier, or it feels heavier because the post is lower. It just completely different.
Is that the banking of the track, or is that just the way the cars sit naturally?
The car's like that because one, with the banking of the track, but two, to be able to corner better. If you're always turning left, you want it to stay like this. So I was trying to muscle the car, couldn't get the car, and one of the big things was they pointed out to me like, when I first came in, one of my coaches, he was like, he told me, like, I'm stronger than him, but the reason why I can't get the car up is because it's technique where I'm placing my body on the handle. You increase that lever arm, you get your weight behind it, then you get a lot more force on it, and you get, car shoots up fast, shoots up easy, and so it's all about technique. Like you'll have guys come in who are huge. Like we had a guy who was like 260, 270. First time he did it, couldn't hit the car. Yeah. It's all about technique. It's not about strength. But essentially, what you do, so the way the jack's designed is to hit the car with momentum, or the way you want to use it is to hit the like on the peg when you first hit the post. Hit that as hard as you can, and get a little bit of pop out of it. And what that does is when you come back on the handle and actually, so it's like, try to give an example. So I have a pistol grip here and my hand's back here. like throw it in the car and back here is handle down, and then I jump back and push down on it.
You're almost getting like a little preload.
Yeah, and that's what it's like. You essentially are preloading it, get a little bit of movement out of it. You're not getting much. You're getting like half an inch at most.
Sure, but relieve that pressure.
Exactly, and then you can get a whole lot more on the second part rather than if you like gently place it under. Also, that prevents the jack from moving. Because I mean, if it's a soft peg, it doesn't have as much friction. You can slide it around. You're coming back.
Yeah, and I've seen videos. I mean, horror stories where all heck breaks loose and they place it incorrectly and it slips and.
Yeah, the car falls off.
Yeah.
We get stuck under the car. All crazy things. Or miss the post entirely. You're on the side skirt. You damage the skirt. Like it just a bunch of different things can happen. But it's all technique, and the way the jacks are designed is just to instead of like that inch off, it's just you're trying to get all of the ball. So it's interesting to see, like if you see one of the race jacks, they're a whole lot smaller than shop jacks, but they still have some weight to them, especially the older one. So the one I started on, I think it was like I forget how much it weighed. It's called a Brunhole. But it was the heavier jack. It wasn't the better jack to use because they always Trackhouse like starts the guys with the bad jack too. You use that, you can use all the nice ones.
It's like the surfer who starts with the 15-foot board just like carved out of like this super heavy wood, and then you got to progress. You got to learn how to master the one with no fin and learn to use your foot. And you see all these famous movies. I used to surf back in the day, but
it's all they're all very interesting. Picking one up and feeling the weight behind it is the first time around. It's definitely more jarring. Like, dang, I gotta run around with this. And what's even funnier is now that I use the light one, I'm like, oh, this is nothing. And then you have people at the track like, hey, can I pick that up? Like, oh, this is heavy. I'm like, oh, you should see the other one I used. Like, the jacks are pretty, like, they're so much different from a track.
So I see, I mean, you got Jackman and now you've got engineers. Talk to us a little bit about, obviously a mechanical engineer by training, but talk to us about you're now doing like engineering at
Trackhouse.
Trackhouse.
I'm still kind of like working my way in.
Sure.
I don't have a set position yet, especially since I'm still learning. So what they have had me do, and some stuff I can't, it's proprietary. But from a basic standpoint, like this year is about just learning. So I started with engineering last November. Essentially, I'm just trying to be a sponge and learn as much as I can because it's still a little bit out of my realm. Or I guess not a little bit. It is out of my realm because again, like automation, coding, robotics. That's where I hang my hat. So kind of adjusting to this, and it's a lot I'm just trying to learn as much as I can. So what they have me doing right now is just kind of bouncing around the shop, just helping out where I can, learning different jobs. So earlier in the year, I was in the machine shop using the drill press. It's monotonous, but I was learning how to, one, use the drill press, but then two, just to learn about different tools, different processes, see how things happen. I got to make a few parts in CAD, so that was cool. Nice. That's something I was familiar with in college, so that was easy transition into. And then the other big thing that I got to, I guess not big, but I learned like basic stuff, learned how to weld, to be able to design to design something if it needed to be welded, to know, okay, don't do it like this. It's a lot harder to weld this way. Like have it to be like this, so then be easier for someone who's welding to make it. I learned how to learn molding plastic for a project that we had to do, and then through that also using a bandsaw, just from the basics, learning different tools that I was not familiar with, learning different processes, learning different things that happen in the shop. For practice, I mean, we film our practices, we have breakdowns, a lot of data, like storage and organizing and learning how to display it and give it to anybody like wants to see it, in a manner that's easy to read. Learning, I mean, I did a little bit of that with my other jobs, but then kind of getting into seeing how they do it. For practice, I do the practice averages every day. So for each car that we do, each group, I take their average practice times, put it in a spreadsheet, have a graph, everything to see their progression throughout the year. That was a responsibility given to me. The different person had a list last year, or gave it to me this year to have some stuff to learn too. And then during practice, so we have someone break down film in real time. So as soon as a stop happens, we break it down, get certain times, certain things you might want to look at, like the amount of time it took to get the right front pipe, or the amount of time the right side took, the amount of time the total stop, stuff like that, in practice, and put that up on the board on the TV in practice, and on the practice card. And so people can look at the film of their stop, and then also see the breakdown of the times, and just get a basis for, all right, this stop was this is what happened in it. Let's go back and get this next one. And that happens all in like a couple. So they do a stops like for take a round in 10 seconds. Then afterwards, 1, 2, 3 minutes, we got the whole thing broken. We got it broken down up on the other TV with the data. And they're like, all right, back the car up, do another one. So I'll do that. I help out with that, with the breakdowns. Me and one of the other guys switch off a lot. So it depends on the car it's going. What's fun is we both also pit too. So when he goes, I got to time his. When I go, he's going to time mine. And then there's been a few days where, because he's much higher up on the totem pole, he actually came in kind of the same way I did. So he's like, I'm aiming to strive where he's at in a few years. And he'll have meetings and stuff that he has to go to, do other things. So there's been times where, like, the 91 car, we're practicing, and we already went out there to break it down. So now I got to have someone flip the switch for me for the film, and I got to come back, sort it, send it over, and then I come back after practice and break all our film down right after and stuff like that. So it's funny to be able to have to run a stop, go break it down, come back, do my stop.
You're timing
it's
yourself.
fun to be able to do that. Yeah.
Sure.
But and it's also great because I break down the film, I can see everybody's film. I mean, it's already active as well. I can see everybody's film, and I get to learn quicker that way. So I get to see everyone's mistakes, everyone's successes, what works, what doesn't work, what to do, what not to do, and so I don't have to learn the hard way. I can just see someone else like, oh, don't do this, or oh, do this, like try this out. It actually accelerates the learning. So it's holistic. Like me being in engineering helps me, exposes me to a lot of data and a lot of things that I can apply to my own pit stops and what I do, my own strategy and techniques. And it just exponentially, like, since getting involved, it's helped me grow and get faster and better at it so much, just because I get exposed to so much more. To the point now where I have access to data from all of these other teams. I can see what other people are doing, what type of times they're running. And when I'm at the track, I can go to their stall, especially when I'm there to back up and I'm just, there if someone gets hurt. I can go to their stall, watch what they're doing. Because everything on pit road, I mean, you can't hide it. So I can go see what they're doing. And like, oh, that's interesting. I'm going to try that. And like, oh, that's interesting. I'm going to try that. And see if that works and helps too. So it's holistic in nature. Engineering, like doing pitting, is helping the engineering is helping pitting. So.
And is that common? Obviously, for you to break into the engineering realm, at Trackhouse or just with like those race cars, obviously that's generally because of your engineering background. I mean, it would make sense.
To be able to do, or
yes, to go into the engineering realm. it's because you have a background in engineering,
Yes.
correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I didn't have that, I wouldn't be there.
And how common is it for someone to come in, work in the engineering side, but also be pitting?
So I wouldn't say it's super common, but for us, like it is commonplace for our team to find another role for somebody.
Yeah.
We're big on utility. So a lot of guys, not everybody, but a lot of guys, they have more than one function. We have one guy who pitches who's also a coach. Now, like Rick is the guy I mentioned. He's an engineer, but he's also a gas man on the one car. A lot of guys do other side projects in the shop, help out in the shop, or they help set up the car, help at least in practice in terms of getting things set up for that. Like they have other roles in the shop, and especially young guys who come in, they're always trying to find another thing. Some guys will do help with tear down. So the cars get recycled. It's not a brand new car every time. So the car comes back, you take the parts off, you see what you can use again, use it again. So like car might come back from say Daytona, and then you flip that car around and it's ready to go for Phoenix. Which is, I mean, like it's like a couple weeks out, but so like like guys will help down with that, with tear downs, it's taking parts off the car, cleaning it, making sure what can be used, what can't be used. It's big, like to help or to have other roles, or even just in terms of public speaking and PR, whatever. I mean, not necessarily in that department, but we have events and stuff, and they'll pick guys out and be like, "Hey, come help with this." Like sure. just increasing your utility, increasing your role in the company. So, say you're not on a car, you're not pitting, but you have value here, keep you around, practicing, getting better, and then also get a little money in your pocket, but then also be, like not just be a jackman or not just be a tire carrier, not just be a changer, but to also progress your career in other ways. So when you're done, because like any sport, it doesn't last forever.
Sure.
I mean, it's performance based, speed based. You slow down when you get older. You have another role to fill. So there'll be another job waiting for you.
And how much of that is on you and your curiosity, your gumption, like your drive to want to
do other things,
to want to be as useful as possible? I mean, literally, that's the name of
pretty much. It's all on the person.
Yeah.
If they want to do it, like it's if you want to do it, it's there. They'll find a spot for you. But if you don't want to, or you're not looking for, or you're not trying to get there, they're not going to be like, "Oh, you need
sure,
to do
yeah,
this.
No, right."
But hey, do your own thing. Like, it's all on the individual if they like really want to do it.
That's awesome. Now, what would you tell someone who wanted to get into? Obviously, because there are so many different things. I mean, I don't want to say they're, but they generally are. I mean, you're pitting, you're doing the Jackman, and then in the engineering side, because in general, a lot of the engineers, like they're observing things like that. But so if someone wanted to get into any of that, short of being an engineer, if someone wanted to become a Jackman, how would someone generally go and pursue that? It sounds like, I mean, you said at the beginning, there's a lot of word of mouth. Obviously, JB, Coach Butler. It's like, I mean, JB, he was an engineer. Like he studied engineering. One of the smartest strength coaches I've ever met. So word of mouth helps, but
for the most part, I mean, word of mouth is a lot of people got in that way. So there, actually, a long time ago, was like NASCAR Tech or something like that. I don't know, something like that, where people could go like a trade school type thing where you learn how to pit and you go and do that. But essentially, what's funny enough is they got a bad rep, and people who went through that school usually didn't get hired somehow. I don't know what happened. It was long before my time, but that was one way. But a lot of people get in through word of mouth or just reaching out to people. The rear changer on my car, named JP, he was a pro lacrosse player. He actually, I forget what he saw. Oh, he was looking up. I think he was looking up kind of the same way. Was looking up he looked up F1 pictures because he was just looking up pitting something else to do. Saw how much they made, but they're like, oh, they're all engineers. And we looked at NASCAR. Looked at NASCAR. So I was like, all right, they make a good amount of money too, and then they don't have to be engineers. Then just heard about my coach, reached out to him and said, hey, this is who I am. Played this sport, played lacrosse, motocross, whatever. Interested in coming. They brought him in for a workout. He worked out. Had it here. Like it's for the most part, it's aside from it's people who seek it out. Like it's you essentially got to meet somebody in the sport to get in. I don't know of any like clear cut like, hey, we're recruiting, we're out there. I think there's a team. So Hendrick Motorsports has a combine every year. Bring tons of athletes in from all different sports, and they do all this testing and stuff, and they bring guys back and they can do stuff. I think that's a way, like just
so like a walk on. It's like a walk
pretty
on.
much, you know, a big walk on tryout. But I know people do that to get in, but for the most part, for everyone I've heard of, they just know a guy, or they, you know, just randomly found their way in it. Aside from like the guys who are going to like the NASCAR Tech or whatever the school is called, yeah, it's a big word of mouth. Hey, I met a guy who knows this guy. He said, hey, try this out. So, you know, there's no like clear cut and dry like applying process.
Yeah, no, like but that. I mean, obviously, but that's super valuable because, like you said, your coach literally hired you not based on what you knew, but based on, you know, who you were and how you acted as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
mm-hmm.
I would have. I mean, we didn't really get into it, but I would assume it's my gosh, we could talk about this stuff for hours. I mean, but a big part of it, I assume. The number one message that I'm constantly getting across in a lot of the things that I talk about lately are, you know, training is not competition, whether it's football, soccer, NASCAR. So I know training has an aspect of stress and you're practicing, but, you know, on that race day, it's like an extremely, I would assume it's a relatively stressful scenario, right? Everyone's on high alert.
Yes. And no, because
you're so. Why? Can you explain?
So
besides the driver,
I would say so. Yes, high stress definitely. I mean, the way you look at it is the way I looked at it, special teams or like being offensive line. Like you essentially a great day for a pit crew. You know, you don't come up. You don't.
Right.
You're not heard about. Like great day for offensive lineman is when their name isn't being called. Yeah. Nothing's being said. It's for the most part, aside from people who really know football, the offense you're not noticing the offensive line unless they're messing up. So the pit crew, a good day is when you're not talked about. You're not a factor because you put your driver in the best position. So obviously if you have an exceptional day, you are talked about because you're taking spots on pit road every time they use another pit crews. But it's high stress in the sense that for the most part you can't make a mistake, or if you do, it's got to be real small, real subtle. Got to make up, or not make up, but you know, got to be able to finish the stop and still be in a decent position. But so in that regard, it is high stress. It's like, yeah, you can't make a mistake, but it's fun. And there's another way to describe like the guys who do it and the guys who do it at a high level. You would think they're out golfing or something. Like they're joking around in the stall. They're having fun. They're not, you know, taking it too serious. Like obviously they're about their business. And when it comes time to do a stop, like they're locked in, they're ready to go. But they're, you know, laid back, chill, you know, real calm, nothing. Like you're on alert, but you're not. I don't know. You're not high strung about it. Like it's not panic mode every single thing. Yeah. It's a real calm, real ease like type of focus. Like you're I guess it's the best way to describe it. It's just like it's a calm focus. It's not like a high strung focus. It's not like a panic. Like every single thing is like high, ramped up, like heart rate real high. Like it's more of like all right, let's go get this done. Like it's not you're not amped up, yelling on the wall, screaming. Like you're more just even.
I mean, well, there's a mastery to it, and there's a uniformity to it, because in football, there's X amount of different plays. It's like, no, these are my steps. Like you were saying, you can close your eyes and it's like you're repeating essentially the exact same thing every single time. So it's like, there's something really cool about something like, if you look at like someone who's a high diver or something like that, it's like, or a gymnast, it's like that routine is supposed to be exactly the same every single time, which is very different than a lot of other sports where there's a lot of unknown. And then obviously that's going to pop up in your sport. But so I mean, hey, that totally makes sense.
Yeah, it was a weird adjustment to come from, everything amped up, balls to the wall, like trying to take somebody's head off all the time to
blasting music. We got to amp you up. Let's get some smelling salts, like all that crazy stuff too.
To back it down and be like, hey, be calm. Like you don't have to. You're trying to be fast. Like being smooth is better than being fast.
Yeah.
Like, so you don't gotta go as hard as you can, full speed at every time. Like that's all.
You're like a Zen. You're supposed to be like a Zen warrior.
100%.
Yeah.
Just be calm, be smooth, just be
slow is smooth and smooth is fast. That's the saying, right? The military
say that all the time. Say it all. They say
slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Oh, there you go.
All the time. We say that all the time, especially the smoothest fast part. Like it's just, and the worst part is, holds true every time. Like you'll be really trying to go fast in times in practice, and then let's say usually here's what happens if you make a mistake. And every time you make a mistake, like your coach said, just go back to the basics. Like slow it down some, just be real focused, be real sure about everything. 100% of the time, if you do that, it's going to be the best stop of the day. Like, there's been times where, like, we're like mad, just making mistakes the whole time. Like, all right, we're going to slow it down. And say we've been running like 9.9s, 9.8s all practice, and all of a sudden 9.2 because we slowed it down. We were smooth, and because we were smooth, everything just gelled together well, and the whole stop was smooth, and there were no hang-ups, no misses, nothing, and ended up being faster. So it's one of those things where it's just like it ends up being like smooth, fast, and just being calm, being that zen, that focus, that keeping the heart rate down, keeping funny enough, never was the biggest fan of the meditation that Cristiano had us do. Like I liked it,
sure,
but I was just also like,
like the regular meditation, or because he was doing the breathing, and I got him to change to the box, so like the 4-corner breathing and stuff like that.
Funny enough, before the first pit stop, I'm on the wall, eyes closed, while cars go by when they're talking on our radio. Just doing the box breathing, just trying to get calmed down, ready to go. But it helps with the pit stop, calms you down, keeps you focused, ready to go, and then first stop, get a good one. I'm set to total the race.
I just saw who is it? Andrew Huberman. The one he talks about a lot now is take a deep breath, and then right at the end, when you think you're done, get another little one, and then blow it out, and it like instantly resets.
Oh, I'm going to try that.
Give that one a try.
Yeah. But the meditation, it helps a lot. It helps a lot.
That's good to know.
Stay calm.
Yeah. Tyler, anything you got?
Leave us with, for our listeners, life quote. We said the slow is smooth and smooth is fast one, but what's something that keeps you going on your pursuit for your ideal version in life at the time you got left here?
Funny enough, I said this back in, I want to say high school. And I'm sure other people have said it. Like I'm sure I'm not the one who came up with it. But messing around, being silly, but I ended up kind of living by it. If people aren't saying like your idea is crazy, you're not trying hard enough. And I started that when I was like, oh yeah, I'm walking on, I'm doing engineering, and it was kind of like a silly thing. I think I was joking around with my friends, and I said, and I was like, nah, people are calling me crazy. Like, I'm not doing enough right now. But I ended up being that person all the time where
man.
it's like, all right, like I guess even better is, I always live by people are telling you like to back it down, like, calm down a little bit. Then you're not trying, you're not going hard enough. You're not trying hard enough. It's always better to be, are you doing too much? Slow it down a little bit rather than, oh, you need to pick it up. You need to do more. So I guess those two things just to kind of play off of each other. But that's the big thing. It's just like be on the brink of doing too much and have people tell you, all right, you can, chill out a little bit. It's not that bad. They're not, it's better to be a little bit, a little bit calmer. Rather than having to tell you that you need to try, you need to do more. Because, one side you're a hard worker, overachiever, up there. Other side is like, all right, people might think you're lazy. You might think you're not, not as invested. So I always felt like it's better to be doing too much than too little, which also has gotten me to break quite a bit of equipment over the past year. But they say you always end up breaking something eventually. So
Sure.
broken a few jacks and messed up the car a few times. There's one of our cars actually had, especially when I was practicing runarounds, I would hit the car every now and then with the jack, and there's a whole bunch of dents and marks around the right front corner. I kept hitting it over and over again.
Now, will that? I mean, is something like that insanely expensive? I mean, are they molding new shells multiple times a season?
So all the parts now are spec parts made by NASCAR that you have to buy. For the most part, nothing's really made for cup cars. For truck and Xfinity, it's truck, I believe, is spec. Xfinity isn't. But that's something that also started with the one large. Xfinity cars are built ground up in shop.
Dang.
So it depends on teams, what they do, the budgets they have available. But for Cup, they're all spec parts, and you get a lot more, a certain amount, and it's just maintaining that equipment throughout the year. For the cars, if you need new ones, you order new parts, whatever. But essentially, it's all, you're not making it in house anymore. But yeah, I don't know how much it costs, but for the lower budget teams for Xfinity, it's a pretty big deal if you wreck a car. So a lot of those guys, like the lower budget teams, the back running teams, the reason why they're back running is not necessarily because they have a bad car, but they don't have the funds to build another car if you destroy it. So they run in the back. It's safer. You see the wrecks come in, and then towards the end of the race, make whatever move you can to get up to a high spot, get a better payout for the race. But there's a driver this year. I forget what car he was driving in Xfinity, but he was on a smaller team, and he had destroyed he had crashed the first 3 or 4 races, something like that. And they were not happy with him at all, because they're a smaller budget team. Every time they destroy a car, that's money. You've got to build a new car. You want to keep competing, and so they wouldn't let him drive. They're like, we're basically, I think the owner of the company had to come in because he used to be rich. He's like, I'm driving the car. You're not doing this. Just because it costs money, and you see that with some teams, they're just trying to protect their equipment. They're just trying to survive the day, get as high as they can. That actually happened to, I think, my driver last year. I think that's the issue. We kept destroying too many race cars, and they're like, all right, we're going to make you on time. You can't keep destroying cars, so we don't have the money to keep building new ones. So that is a big thing with the smaller teams. But for the practice car now. They kind of expect like it gets practice, you're gonna break stuff.
Dings and
that's gonna happen. I mean, it's the practice car. So if you put little damages in the body, like, it's no big deal. When one of the parts from one of the actual race cars gets to its mileage life and we don't want to use it anymore,
it then
so
goes.
just send it to us. We put it on our car. You know, it's no big deal. Like, but yeah, that no, it's like that stuff isn't a big deal. I did one time break the carbon fiber side though. That one, they weren't happy about that. There was a lot of tape put on the car that day. Could not put another one on the practice car for a while. But yeah, no, it's usually little things that no big deal. Happens all the time.
What's your dream car? Since I'm a big car guy, you a car guy now?
Yeah, did it get you into cars?
I've been into cars. I just engineering wise, was never involved. Always been a Corvette. Always been a Corvette. I've been a huge fan of Corvettes since I was a little kid. And, the mid-engine, the new Corvette, the C8. My goal was like, I gotta get one. made a promise to my dad though. He was like, because the way the sport works out, like when you get to a certain point, I mean, you make a good bit. And I definitely was talking. I mean, I was messing around, like talking to my dad, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get a Corvette, you know, and when I get to this certain level, or whatever, I'm definitely get a Corvette. But he made me promise I gotta get a house first, and then make a good investment. You know, so
get a garage to park a Corvette before you get the Corvette.
Instead of living in an apartment, still paying rent every month. But I was like, all right, fine, I'll do that. But I told him, I was like, the Corvette is coming not too long after.
Yeah, there you go. Just wait until you can get both.
Oh yeah.
And then
happen, brother.
Last thing, no one. We had talked. So Aslan, tell everyone, you know, what you were named after, where that came about. I'm a huge fiction fantasy.
Yeah, my mom was a big fan of the C.S. Lewis books, so I'm named after Aslan the Lion from Narnia. She liked the allegory for Jesus, you know, thought it was pretty cool. That was a good story. So that's
I looked it up, and it's because I hadn't looked it up at the time, but I mean, obviously the C.S. Lewis Chronicles of Narnia, things like that, Aslan, King Aslan. But then you look at it, and you're like, oh, it's a pretty noble biblical reference. So you know, Mom named you like something noble with a lot of big shoes to fill. So it's awesome. It's awesome to see you filling them. And I mean, I Tyler can speak, but it was an absolute pleasure. It was wonderful chatting with you. And, you know, my gosh, I learned so much, not just about, you know, not even about NASCAR itself, but more about like the intricacies of, you know, what it takes to, you know, be in that. You know what? I think one of the main things that I would have taken away was I would have never really thought that an individual had to be like insanely strong and powerful. To be able to pick up the tire, to be able to do this. You just think speed, but you know, you never really equate how heavy a lot of those things are, let alone how fast you have to move, which ultimately is, you know, that's what the definition of power is. It's not just strength, but how fast you can do it.
Yeah, a lot of athletes. Funny, one of my teammates now was a running back at Penn State.
Oh, get out of here!
I played against so it was funny when he came down. I was like, hey, I know who you are.
Dang.
Against you. But no, it's a lot of athletes, a lot of former athletes, a lot of much more impressive than myself, much more athletic than me in the sport. I mean, we got multiple NFL players on our team. That's just the guys they recruit, and I mean, all across the board, other teams, athletes everywhere. Like, you think about the drivers and the stuff, but you don't until you're in it. Like, you don't really think about the guys behind the scenes, especially on the pitting side. There are some freak athletes doing it, and like you said, with the tires, like especially the 5-0 tires. I mean, they're the normal ones, are the liners close to 80 pounds a piece. And then the light tires are like 55. Tires now are like 45, 35, 40, something like that, which I mean, still no slouch, but it's light air. But, I mean, yeah, you think about running with two of them as the car's coming at you at 60 miles an hour. I mean, well, depending on the track, but I mean, still, you're running in front of a car with those tires, or with the 30, or I guess now it's like 20 pounds jack, but still, it's you don't think about that side of it. It's definitely a whole new world.
Awesome.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time
coming
on here and for us doing this later too, for making it work. And just, you have such a cool background. Like Pat said, our podcast is Valued Pursuit, and you've obviously been doing a very valuable pursuit of your life currently with all the different things you've been in, and really interesting to see where you're at now with your athletic background and with the academics and whatnot. And it's so cool too to like have this conversation, because I grew up, my dad was like in superbikes and stuff my whole life when I was little, and we used to watch the Daytona 500 whenever it was on too. So it's really cool to kind of get that background of the pit crew, like you said, that you really, myself included, like never even thought about. Like you always know about how quick the pit stops are and how crucial they are for people to place on podium and to really make it far in the race and whatnot, and to be successful. But it's really cool to kind of get that back end of the behind the scenes, so to speak, of like what goes into it, and how powerful you guys are for those drivers to do their best and to have a good outcome in the race. So, but thank you for your time, and definitely looking forward to getting some photos from Patrick, or maybe even you with the Corvette once you get it in the near future.
Yeah, definitely have to take that to the facility if I get one. So
yeah, for sure.
Keep at it. Keep pursuing that more valuable, better version of yourself. Keep climbing. Keep chopping, as we'll use our. I'm still part of that family. So it's been an absolute pleasure, man. And I look forward to staying in touch, and maybe we'll eventually have you back on when you get to that. Keep climbing, and we would love to have you back on to talk us through that journey and things related to what you're doing down there or any endeavor.
Thank you for being here and taking a step towards growth. As the saying goes, change is inevitable, but growth is optional. We look forward to sharing more expertise and content with you, and we want to hear from you about what topics you're interested in learning more about. Please share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're enjoying this experience, please like, subscribe, and share with others who could benefit.
Our goal is to grow the show and bring on more valuable guests to provide relevant content for your life. Thank you for joining us on this mission to spread knowledge and connect with people around the world. The Valued Pursuit podcast and content posted by Valued Pursuit is presented solely for general informational, educational, and entertainment purposes. The use of information on this podcast or materials linked from this podcast or website are at the user's own risk. It is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, medical, psychotherapist, or any other qualified professional, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice for any medical or mental health condition they may have, and should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such condition. You ever have a vision? Something you see play out before it happens? They say that the scariest thing in life is not growing into your potential, not recognizing the person you were created to be. We are on a mission to help everyone on this planet chase that version of you, your most fulfilled self. Created here in the USA, Reinvent Co. is now releasing their one-off hoodie in a full zip design. Premium quality fitted to your physique to show you are chasing greatness in all aspects of life. Wear a garment that shows your potential evolving over a lifetime, and become a part of a brand where humans connect to knock down the obstacles they face for endless refinement and continuous improvement.